Hello and welcome to day 2 of Men's Health Connected. I'm Glenn Poole of the Australian Men's Health Forum, and today's programme is focused on the benefit of sport, exercise and physical activity on men's physical, mental and social health and well-being, and it's called Get Men Moving. So before we move on to the programme, I want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands where we meet today. I'm joining you from the traditional lands of the Gureng, the Gurang, the Bunda Bunda and Balai people up here in central Queensland. I'd like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, emerging across all the traditional lands around Australia. So we've got 4 sessions for you today, each featuring 3 great men's health projects, all of which that are creating opportunities for men to engage in sport or physical activity or exercise in a way that's designed to improve their health. And often, as you'll find, it's not just the obvious thing about improving their physical health and well-being. Often these projects are improving mental health, and often as well, social health and well-being through social connection and other mechanisms, which no doubt our projects will talk about. We've grouped these 12 projects into 4 different sessions, each with a bit of a sort of unifying theme. The second session coming up is entirely projects using yoga to engage with men. In session 3. There's a focus on projects that have a real focus on physical health, things like prostate cancer, mobility, weight loss. And in the final session called Working It Out, we're looking at gym-based projects. But to kick off, we're starting with projects that have a strong focus on social connection. The session is called Connecting Through Exercise. We have 3 projects lined up, Mongrels Men, which started in Sydney and is now spreading beyond there. The Men's Walk and Talk event in Penrith in the Blue Mountains, and the Greg's Men's Health app, which is brought to us from a company down in Adelaide in South Australia, who we're going to meet very shortly. To give a little bit of extra spice to this particular event, there's a bit of a prize money on offer, thanks to one of our member organizations and kind sponsor, Bulk Nutrients, who've provided $1,000 to award to 1 project, who will be, I have to say it right up, you're all bloody winners, but we'll choose 1 project to win $1,000 to continue that work. And we'll be choosing 1 project from each session to go through to the final of sorts at 5 p.m. We'll be joined by the founder of Bulk Nutrients, who'll be choosing one of those 4 shortlisted projects to win the prize. So with no further ado, in this session, I've already said who we're meeting, so let's hand over to our first speaker of today. This is Simon Lure, who has been working very hard on this great men's health app called Greg. I won't try and explain it because he'll do a better job than me. I'll hand over to Simon, and to each of our speakers, I'll be giving you a shout after about 9 or 10 minutes if you're still going, because we want to make sure everyone has a go and that we get to do some questions towards the end of each session. So Simon, over to you first. Thanks for joining us.
Look, thank you very much, Glenn, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about what we're doing, but also the opportunity to listen and hear from many other great guys that are doing some unbelievable things as well. Before I get into Greg, I suppose I'll tell a little bit about a history. I'm a Queenslander. I was born and bred in Brisbane, one of 4 boys raised by just mum. Grew up in an environment with boys everywhere. So our house was the eco-centre of activity in the western suburbs of Brisbane growing up, and generally a cricket bat or ball or a footy in our hand. So we grew up in an environment surrounded by connection and activity with men, I suppose, or boys in that instance. Fortunate to play some footy for Brisbane in the early 90s when they were the Bears and they were pretty average, and says how good I was if I was delisted from the team that was on the bottom of the ladder, but that was my journey in life. And which moved me to Adelaide, and I stayed in the footy system down here with a club called Centrals that plays in the SANFL for 7 years. And I'm not telling you that to try and pump my tyres up because I wasn't the best player going around, but the reason for that is that I grew up until the age of 30 with, activity and connection with men literally every day. And because I hadn't known any different, we just took it all for granted. Me, like most people at the age of 30, dropped out of sport or dropped out of competitive sport and went on the journey of life. And with that brings us ups and downs of marriage and kids and work and money and all of the anxieties that exist in, I suppose in the community right now. A couple of years ago, an old footy mate of mine owned a bike shop, and I walked into his shop. And this particular, he was known as Angry Cotter in his footy days, but this particular day he was despondent. And in the public domain, many men had pulled out of high-profile sport for mental illness, and at that stage it was becoming or had become a massive thing in the community. And so we spent there 2 hours just having a chat about, what was spinning. And he'd recently lost a friend to suicide. And we played a lot of footy against Port Adelaide. They lost 7. So I suppose we sat there for 2 hours and came out with a resolution that we wanted to do something to change it. And we hooked up with another couple of mates, and then we looked around the room and there wasn't enough smarts to develop the cure. So we thought our strategy was going to be prevention. And we spent 12 months sort of researching on what that could look like. And I suppose the research that stood out to us was simplistically connection and activity. And if men could connect and be active 3 to 4 times a week, they're up to 50% less likely to fall into ill health. And for us, that statistic, we go back to when I was a kid and Norm and the government's mandate of getting people active, we wanted to replicate that. So fortunately, we had some people that shared our vision and believed in the journey we're going to go on. And we went to the market, we raised $1 million, and we've spent 2 years building an app and a web version of the app that we've launched a couple of weeks ago. And Greg was created with a simplistic motive of getting men connected and active. And in doing that, I suppose what the app does is it allows men to reconnect with old communities. So for someone like myself, it might be an old scholar, it might be an old footy team, it might be old mates, whatever it is. But rather than congregating on the hill once a year and drinking way too many beers, the movement is all based around catching up regularly with family and friends and whatever, but somehow doing something active. Then, I suppose the value of that is if men are doing that everywhere is that for all guys, it gives an opportunity for them to find like-minded people. So, you think about a retired guy who's gone out and bought a boat and wants to go fishing, but got no one to go fishing with. You think about in today's work roster of 24/7 people, want to go for a walk or a run or a ride or a swim or whatever it is at all sorts of times of the day. Greg, with the end in mind, will be an avenue for people to find people to do that with. So we spent 12 months looking at all the tech that was out there, had some really good people that were from that world that helped us and guided us. And what we've managed to do was pick out all the really good bits of that and form that into Greg. So every morning, every day, you see people catching up everywhere, and most of them use WhatsApp or Messenger or any of the messaging platforms to do that. Then they got to scroll through all the messages to see who's coming and who's not. So we built some really cool tech that allows, it's a messaging platform that allows people to also organise catch-ups and all the detail, geolocator and all that in there as well. But then what it also does is it allows ecosystems, so your local tennis club to, there's an Instagram follow mechanism in there so they can send out messages to all of their members. They can also try and attract and help more people come to their clubs. They can use the activity function to promote everything that's going around at the club. There's an event platform on there that allows them to promote events, sell tickets, and all the things that, your local community clubs want to do. You think about all of the council rec centres and all of the basketball courts and ovals and beaches that are underutilised. And so what we're trying to do is it's got an event platform on there with all the different events that are around town, from sporting to music to arts to wine and all those things, but also creates a mechanism for men to populate their own activities. So that could be a half-court shoot down the road. You go down with your son. Since this has started and we had it in a little trial group, we've started going down with a heap of old mates and kids and some girls come down once a week to have a kick of footy in the park. So it's not about, us wanting to be the best or the ultimate at anything. It's simplistically a tool that helps men get connected and get active in their community. And as we've said from the research that we did, the impact of this is massive. So Greg has been launched as really the tech platform that supports a lot of the people that you're going to hear from over this week, all the people that are doing things. And since we've started in this world, we've interacted with so many in all these different areas, from North Queensland to this, rural bush in New South Wales, to teach young men what it's like and what is the profile of a man in today's world as against the old, we don't cry, we don't show emotion, all those sort of things. So all of them are able to promote their product and their services on the Greg app, and gives an avenue for men to also find health, nutrition, food, exercise, and all of these things. So we've started a journey where we're fortunate in that, we've had some really good people around us, but over the next couple of years, now that we've launched, we hope to sort of grow and hope to get hundreds of thousands of, not just men, it's not a men's only platform, because when you think about all the running groups and riding groups and all the people that catch up, there are many women in there as well. But there's an opportunity for men to find like-minded men and catch up and reconnect with their old communities. But also for people that move interstate, travel for business, or don't have people to do things with, that they can get on the app and find that. From car clubs to chess to music lovers, it doesn't really matter what it is. So I'm the least tech dude that lives in this space, but certainly passionate about the mission that we've gone on. We've got some partners over in the UK, in London, that helping us fund it for the next 12 months to help get us up and running. And longer term, with advertising and data and premium membership, it'll be a self-sufficient. So we're not a charity, we're a social enterprise that realistically, when you look at the landscape of men's health and the research, well, all of the, I suppose the diagnostics on our mental health and physically health has never been worse, from depression and anxiety and obesity and all of these things that exist. And myself and the guys that are around us, that's not the baton we want to hand over to the next generation. It wasn't what I grew up in, and really prevention is always better than the cure. So, we're focused, highly motivated and driven of creating change. And the Greg brand has been, created, I suppose, to not get in the face of mental health, but simply be a tool for guys to enjoy the fun and jocularity and mateship and connection and all of those things that come with spending time with good friends, but also an avenue to find activities and things to do, both with your existing network, but help you expand that if you want to do that and find new ones. So that's a bit about the, I suppose, the Greg app and the Greg mission, and hopefully over the journey of time in the coming months, it'll become a household name. And then, we hope to, we've spoken to some people that, got in America, they're going to take it over there because, they've got massive issues over there, which is the same here. So through old footy networks and high profile people that are really passionate about what we're doing, that have put their hand out to help and promote, to everyday Joe who's, trying to do the right thing and keep active and fit, we're hoping to get a sway of enthusiasm and attachment from people in the market, and hopefully they can help us drive the Greg brand into the market to help us achieve what we all want, and simplistically to live a happy and healthy life that, we can live each day, not like it's our last, but like it's our first, and enjoy what is presented with it. So
right,
that's us.
Right, thanks, Simon. You've given a real comprehensive overview there.
No worries.
Really.
How was the time? How was the time, mate? Was I good?
Perfect.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
You've not quite broken your personal best, but it's an acceptable training time, I would say. Yeah.
Oh, good work. Good work.
To use sporting metaphors, no, absolutely bang on. So I really feel your passion, and I'm sure we'll have some good questions for you towards the end of the session after we've met Tim and Billy. Just a reminder, please use the chat box. Introduce yourself, share links to your projects and programs, even if you're not one of the speakers. Pop questions in there for the speakers. The speakers you're welcome to answer directly in the chat box, but we'll also try and bring some of those questions that pop up out into the discussion session later on. So moving on from the passion of I'm gonna, if I call you Greg at any time by mistake, Simon, I apologize. The passion of Simon at Greg. I'll move on to a mongrel of a man. You won't mind me saying so. It's Tim Houston from Sydney, who is the absolute driving force behind the Mongrels Men group. He sort of burst onto the scene a few years ago and has taken, by sheer force of passion and energy, it seems, taken his great idea on the northern beaches of a group of men getting active and engaged, and now spreading it around the rest of the country bit by bit. So welcome, Tim, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Glenn, and a massive shout out to everyone who's obviously pulled this event together. It's been, look, it's amazing to be a part of it. In terms of my role, founder of Mongrels Men, if I think about where we started, it was a very humble beginning with 8 blokes that got away for a game of golf back in 2004. 2008. So we've obviously evolved over the course of the last 14 years, as Greg's indicated. And part of that is, we've seen the male suicide stats, and we know that 7 of 9 men every day are committing suicide. And we all know that as blokes, we can do a much better job of not just looking after ourselves, but connecting with other blokes, having more meaningful conversations and looking out for one another. And this is all stuff that I know now, but when we started off Mongrels Men in 2008, and it was a golf weekend away with 8 blokes, I had no idea that I'd be here. I'd had no idea that I'd go to bed each night thinking about men's mental health, that I'd wake up next morning thinking about men's mental health, or that my journey would have evolved to the point now where we've set up a men's mental health charity focused on changing and improving the mental and physical health of men through sports, fitness, and exercise. And to be completely honest with everybody, I thought that solving life's problems was just best dealt with by burying my head in my work, sucking it up, soldiering it on, pushing everything down deep, not burdening everybody around me with my own problems. It's what I saw my grandfather do. It's what I saw my father do. So it was actually all I knew. So, I'm excited about Mongrels Men. I'm excited about where we are. And more importantly, I'm excited about where we're going. Today, we are a community of about 1,500 strong. We have 5 community champion programs running now in Bondi, Manly, Dee Why, Terrigal, and Kingscliff. So there's very much a coastal theme. And we're looking to build out that program across the country. And we've got a number of other sites and regional areas that we're actually looking at the present moment. In terms of the activities, we do everything from winter, summer and soccer social teams, a basketball team. We organise sunrise walk and talks, beach runs, trail runs, swimming, surfing, yoga, Pilates, martial arts and defence training. We get groups together to organise, organise events, to participate in organised events like fun runs, endurance and physical challenges. And of course, we still run the golf day that started it all off about 14 years ago. It feels like we might need a Greg app to actually bring all this together to coordinate it. But we've grown a lot. It started off just a couple of years ago with 2 blokes running up and down the beach in Dee Why, having a chat, sharing problems, challenges and the issues that we faced. And we're now 5 community champions strong. Last year, we organised over 337 events. We had nearly 3,200 men come along and participate. That's 9 men a day. And if you think about the suicide stats that we talked about before, if those 9 men were the 9 people that were contemplating suicide a day, just imagine the power that we can have as we continue to expand out the community champion programs. We, as a charity, are non-clinical. We're focused our energy around the prevention space, the pillars for us: exercise and activity, community conversation and connection, and of course, lots of this stuff happens at sunrise, so we need our coffee. But probably our proudest moment was when we, through our revolution, set ourselves up as a charity. But for me, there was probably a couple of light bulb moments that have led to who we are and where we target. And it was me waking up in my 40s having buried myself in work, trying to, struggle myself with anxiety, panic attacks, depression that ultimately led to the breakdown of my own marriage. And I had mates from school, but I had no social connections that I'd created in that last 10 to 15 years. I had no one to reach out to. And I've come to realize that this is all too common for blokes. And then a couple of other things happened. I was standing on the sideline with a bunch of other dads watching our wives and our kids play soccer. And I realized that women do this stuff well. They naturally have emotional support networks. They organise events. They are much better at dealing with their emotions, and blokes don't even turn up to stuff, even when it's organised for them, unless there's a beer or the footy's on. So I started to think about what that meant. And 2 years on, we've got our own soccer team. The Mongrels was born in its first kind of competitive form. And it was at the end of the first year, a bloke came up and he said, thanks for organising. And I said, no worries. It's, it's the only way I can actually secure my spot in the team is to manage you guys. And he said, no, seriously, I don't have time for myself. That was my 90 minutes. That 90 minutes on the pitch is the only time I have to be myself. I'm not a husband, father, business owner, a boss, a brother. It's time for me. And I thought that's pretty powerful. 2 years on, same thing happens. Another guy comes up at the end of the year event, and he says to me, thanks for organising. I went, no worries. You guys are like family, love this stuff. And he said, no, if you didn't organise soccer and for me to turn up every week, I actually wouldn't be here. And that actually blew me away. And that was probably one of the most telling moments for me. I saw this guy twice a week and I had no idea of what he was going through. I was surrounded by blokes and I'd have no idea whether they were struggling or not. I realised we didn't have the skills, we didn't know how to identify the signs, and we didn't have the tools to ask the right questions. We were there for each other on the field, but we weren't doing what we needed to support each other off the field. And so 2019 rolls around and Mongrels Men's is born. We know that Greg's just kind of covered off why sport and exercise is so important. And I think the key stat he just pulled out was about 50% improvement in mental health and wellbeing if you exercise up to 3 times per week. And so that's kind of what drives and underpins what we do at Mongrels Men. We know, increased through serotonin and can help us with regulation of moods and improves energy levels and our sleep and our motivation, all these great things, manages stress, but it needs to be about consistency. And we're blokes, men can sometimes find it very uncomfortable to open up, have a conversation, eyeball one another across the table. Sports and exercise is a great way for guys to get together. It's very social. It gets the endorphins going. It starts to open up conversations, and walking and running is perfect because you can walk side by side. You don't have to eyeball. It's non-threatening. Conversations open up, and we're pretty simple creatures. Give us something to do, keep us entertained, and the conversation will eventually come. So from us, I think at Mongrels Men, all about the activity. Get guys off the couch, get them outdoors, get them into fresh air, and get them exercising. If we can, get them up for a sunrise. Not all of our events happen at sunrise, but if we can, get them into some salt water. It needs to be movement focused. This isn't about sitting in the pub, slapping each other on the back, and it's not about beers and bullshit. It's about creating inclusive range of events that people can get along to. And DY is a good example where we have walking, running, swimming, surfing, yoga, and meditation, and then we all meet at 7 o'clock for a coffee. And then creating an opportunity to connect, sitting down and having a chat. And we squarely target that demographic, sort of 30 to 65. We know that 1 in 3 men don't have social connections. It's a demographic we understand. We want to create a safe place for those blokes. We want to bring in family because we know they're critically part of the support network. And interestingly, an area that we want to focus on long-term is intergenerational change. We know that we want to change the attitudes of men towards mental health. I've seen it in my own family. I've seen it in others. And so for the next 2 years, we just want to focus on rollout of the Community Champion program. Put as many community champions into as many areas across the country as possible and have the greatest impact on the greatest number of men. And we know this stuff works and creates a difference. We've created brand new communities of men to support one another. We've encouraged thousands of men to get out of bed and get off the couch and get outdoors, get some fresh air, exercise and be better blokes. We know that they've all developed new friendships, and after a while they trust one another, they dig a little deeper, they start more meaningful conversations, and then they start to ask the tough questions.
Thanks, Tim.
And then they help each other out.
Awesome. Tim, it's a fantastic community you're building there. I can see you could carry on talking for an hour and it would still be absorbing, but we'll need to move on. Thank you for the work you're doing. We'll come back to you.
No worries. Thanks, Glenn.
Q&A. Any questions for Tim, drop them in the chat box and we'll move on to our final speaker of this session. So also in New South Wales, but not on the coast, we have one of the most sort of exciting weekly men's projects I've seen. The numbers behind this event are astounding, and I keep meaning to get down to the Blue Mountains to actually see it for myself. I'm talking about the Penrith Men's Walk and Talk. I'm one of something like I think it's nearly 10,000 people who follow the group on social media, and dozens and sometimes more than 100, I think, men come together once a week for a walk and talk in Penrith in the Blue Mountains. And one of the men behind this incredible weekly event joins us today. He is Billy Beggs. Over to you, Billy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I've got a different accent to most of you guys. So just a little bit about my background. I'm from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and sort of came here 2007. But before that, having lived through what was a period of about 25 years of civil unrest, I picked up a lot of tips and stuff like that there to support the people. So a lot of guys come to the end of that 25 years of civil unrest. There was a bit of a void, and to fill that void, drugs came into the community. A lot of young guys who had survived all those troubles, and many of them were killed, were now faced with this possibly greater danger of drugs. And people in the community, they had that freedom then to maybe step up and help them. So within different communities, a couple of people in each community got together to support young men who, once they got the drugs, a lot of them were committing suicide. And we needed to do something about that. So a lot of us got trained up to become counsellors, to engage with the young people particularly. And at first we found it very difficult. The young people wouldn't connect with us. So we started to think how to connect with them. We started football teams. That was the big thing. So with that focus in mind, the kids came along, the young people came along, they engaged with us. And then we started on that journey of recovery with them. So they had the focus of the football, it took their mind off the drugs, and we got them into counselling sessions and started to work through their problems. It was a major success, and I'm very proud to be involved in that initiative. So 2007, I came to Australia, and I started work here in community groups. Been through maybe 3 or 4 different community groups. And then about 6 years ago, an opportunity came up with an organization called Like Mind, which is the mental health organization. And they wanted a community development coordinator to go out into the community and talk about mental health and engage with the community. And through that there, I met a guy, another coordinator from the Men's Walk and Talk, as it was. And he told me that one of his mates was really suffering. He'd lost his son and to suicide, and they didn't want they wanted to help this guy, but they didn't want to go down to the pub, have a few drinks, because that doesn't go anywhere. So they thought, like, we would like to go for a walk, but they were frightened if they took this guy on the walk, and he opened up that none of these other guys, two or three friends, would have the skills to support him. So they invited me along on that first walk. And on that first walk, they invited a few more friends to come and support this guy. And there was about 18 guys walked around the Nepean River, which is about 6.5 kilometers. And on that walk, we found that a few of the other guys that came, who no one knew had any issues, started to open up about issues that they had. And at the end of the walk, we thought, hey, that was a great opportunity to engage with guys, to find out what's going on in their life. We were friends with them, but we didn't know these things were happening. So we decided to do it the next week. Next week was probably about 25 guys came along. Again, we walked around the river. And I think one of the successes of this walk, by the way, is that we have a beautiful walk around the river, and it's one way round. And as guys have said there before, it's walking in the open air. It's walking side by side, not looking in people's eyes, and giving people the opportunity to offload whatever their issues, whatever their problems are. So this walk has now developed from just over 3 years ago, where we had those first 17 or 18 people, to now where we get maybe 70, 80 people regularly, and that's in the bad weather. And sometimes we get up to 300. In fact, we had, I think, 306 guys walking around the river one night. So that was an amazing thing to do. I think the concept is basically very simple. You come along, you're in the open air. The local business community, as well as the local community, are behind us. So we get free coffee every week before the walk. We meet during the winter time at 5 o'clock at the local coffee club. We stand around, we chat, and then at 6 o'clock we walk. Once every month, we try and get a guest speaker coming along, and that seems to increase the number of people attending the walk. And some of those people are just local heroes, I suppose, who have been through rough, hard times. And I think the guys listening to that there feel that, you know, they have problems. They understand they have problems then themselves, and then they want to talk about it. The concept, though, of walking, it gives you that exercise. It gets the blood going. And some of the guys that come along, they come along for the exercise only. They don't have any issues in their lives. So maybe a dozen of them, they would come every week. They're the first ones off on the walk, and they're trying to increase or decrease the time that it takes them to get around the river. Other guys come to lose weight, and we've had some fantastic stories about guys dropping maybe 10, 20 kilos over a period of time. Probably 20% of our walkers do have some issues, and we've had some fantastic stories where they have come on the walk. They didn't want to go to a psychologist or, you know, counselor, for whatever reason. I suppose we know those reasons, that guys don't like opening up. And from that, they take the opportunity then to engage with some of the guys on the walk, start a conversation, and then they can be directed to me, as I was the only counsellor on the walk, to get further support. And then we can then direct them to other agencies within the local area. It became so successful that one organisation who deals with grants gave us $10,000 and said, look, there's the money, do whatever you want with it. And we thought it would be great if we could train 100 of our guys in basic mental health. So we went about organising that there. So far, we put 60 of those guys through mental health training, basic mental health training. And within the next couple of months, they'll be stepping up to do the full mental health first aid course. So this gives them the opportunity to engage with other guys coming on the walk. And not only that there, but then they can go into the community and support other people in their families or workplace. Another thing that we do, and you know, when I think back to 3 years ago where we just wanted to walk around the river, now we go out to building sites, we go out to businesses, we talk to people, to guys in their own area, their own area of work, during smoke time or whatever. And this gives them the opportunity then to come forward and start getting support that they need. We've been so successful too that lots of other groups, people in other areas have heard about us. They've come along to the walk, and then they've started up the walk in their areas. So it's starting to get out into the community. I think that's basically all I need to say about it. That it is what it is. It's a walk, and people are getting exercise.
Fantastic. That's so awe-inspiring. I can hardly conceptualize 300 blokes all going for a walk at the same time. It's
and we all have our own shirts too, our shirts, our Penrith Men's Walk and Talk. So to see that is amazing.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. So we've got about 10 minutes until the next session. I might go over a little because we're a little late starting, so maybe 11, 12 minutes. And I want to hear some feedback or questions from those of you who are listening today. Best way to do this is to click the raise a hand icon. If you don't know where that is, there's a toolbar at the bottom. There's a smiley face saying reactions, and you can notice that, right at the bottom of the little box that pops up, there's a raise a hand icon. You click that and you'll pop to the top of my list here. I'll ask one to get started. I'm quite interested to know very different types of projects, all achieving similar things in different ways, but all requiring a different kind of like approach in terms of financing, for example. And I'd like to come back to you first, Simon, and get a sense of, obviously you've raised this phenomenal amount of money to get kickstarted and do all that development stuff, but what's the financial model going forward? How do you make sure that it keeps washing its face and you can keep developing it and improving it and growing it?
Yeah, look, great question. And there are an awesome amount of charities out in the market that do some amazing things. But I come from a business background, and we wanted to be in control of our own destiny, I suppose. So we pitch ourselves as a social enterprise. Initially, the capital that we raise will give us a runway for another year or so, which gives us time to get up and running. But there are corporate partnerships, there's an event platform, there's merchandise and smaller revenue lines, but the major revenue lines are all based around advertising and data, as most of these platforms are. And another one is a premium membership model, both for businesses and the individual, which is a well-worn path of Chris Hemsworth style, and we've all looked in the mirror and we don't scrub up as well as him, but we're going to launch an app that effectively it's about food, nutrition and exercise programs. And but the app itself will always be free, hence we wanted to put something out in the market that allowed people to find and do what they do for nothing. And once we get enough people on it, we're buoyant and hopeful that the revenue lines will kick in.
That's wonderful. And look, it's not for me to say, but I'd have you over in Hemsworth any day, Simon.
Yeah.
Metaphor, hypothetically, you understand.
Of course.
See, I can see my wife in the other room staring strangely at me now, not for the first time. So I'll come to Tim. I was obviously recently gone for the very onerous task of getting Mongrels Men put up as a charity. What's the plan going forward? Is it fundraising? Is it grant applications? What's the financial growth model for you, Tim?
Glenn, it actually includes all of that, but I think the beauty of the Mongrels Men model is if you're bringing guys together over a coffee, it's actually a very, very low cost model. Exercise doesn't cost much. We're lucky that there's a number of different partners that want to reach out to us. So yeah, while we'll go for grants, and that'll be about building specific programs in certain communities, we're lucky enough to have some foundation donors, and we're lucky enough to have some advocates that have already started to raise some money, in addition to our own events and activities. And ideally, each one of the community groups will be able to access platforms to be able to conduct their own fundraising activities as well. So they also become self-sustaining. And the idea here is, grassroots, low cost, greatest impact.
And are you primarily driven by volunteers?
All volunteers. Yeah, 100% volunteers. Yeah, and when I say we're brand new as a charity, we're talking a month.
Right. Welcome. You might want to put a bit of that money into paying someone to do the admin. That's my only bit of advice,
Oh yeah, no, that's me at the moment.
Right, yeah. Because volunteering to do the stuff you love is one thing, but volunteering to do all that admin is another thing entirely. Yeah. Anyway, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Glenn.
And I'll come to you, Billy. Are you almost inside? I mean, obviously that chunk of $10,000, you made it go a long way, but just as in terms of general running, is it entirely voluntary, or is there any?
Absolutely, all volunteers. There are 6 guys who are the coordinators, and yeah, we're all volunteers. We all work, and we rely on various businesses to give us the money for the coffee every week. But some of the young guys that have come on the walk, they're really inspired to support us, and a couple of them have done brilliant things for us. One guy flipped a massive big tire right around this river walk, 6.5 kilometers, and he raised a couple of $1,000 for us, which bought us the shirts. Another guy, he ran, I think it was 100 times over the course of, maybe 2 or 3 days, raising money for us as well. So when you got young guys like that behind you, it is easier. But yeah, we do everything ourselves.
Gotcha. And how far is that course that the guy was flipping a tire around, did he say? 6.5
kilometers.
Whoa.
And he started at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he thought it would take him about 4 hours, but he actually done it in 2.5.
Pretty impressive. I would have rolled it, not flipped it. I was looking for a shortcut. Okay, so I see Greg Milan, our president, has got his hand up. Greg, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Welcome to everybody. 3 great projects to start us off. But my question is for Simon, Greg, and on behalf of all the other Gregs in the room. Great name, Greg. If Greg is not an acronym for anything, and I had already loaded your app and had a look at it, where did the name Greg come from? What's the history of it being called Greg?
Yeah, look, good question. Our company is called Men's Armour for Life, and we sat with some marketing people and told them the strategy of the business, and they didn't think that would grab the market, and they came up with Greg. And I suppose why we loved it so much was it allowed us to give it a character. We didn't want to launch an app that was strictly on mental health. We wanted to pretty well grab all of the market of every man. And Greg, we thought, would resonate with guys along the lines of Aussie humour and larrikinism and mateship, and allows us to use that to capture the audience and hopefully grow a movement. So
it's an interesting name, like Mr. Perfect, the project Mr. Perfect, also that I coordinate up here. We always get that question, what's that about? Because it's a catchy name. So good. Thank you.
That's all right.
Great work.
I think the same question doesn't need to go to Billy, but perhaps that question could also go to Tim.
About naming, and it's an interesting one.
Yeah,
it is. And look, the idea here is that we want to prompt a conversation between men, because it only takes 2. And if the name itself prompts a conversation, then you're partway there, and it's doing some free marketing for you. I think as Simon could probably appreciate. But it also gives you the opportunity to dig in and talk about, the underdog, the strength and resilience, the fight within the dog, in a whole range of different concepts that we can kind of leverage off. But it is meant to be about building inner and core strength as men. So great opportunity to talk about it. Absolutely. The weirder name, the better.
Great. Okay, and a final thought. I think particularly for Billy and Tim, but Simon, have a go on this one as well if you like. It may be a difficult question because I think the answer is all 3. So I'm giving the answer before I ask the question, but I'd like you to sort of just like chew this over a little bit in terms of men's physical health, men's mental health, and men's social health. Which are you doing most of? And maybe another way of looking at it is maybe which are you doing first? Which is the one that draws men in? Because I'm going to assume the answer is we're doing all 3. But which is the most important, or which is the one that draws men? Is it the exercise? Is it the social connection? Or is it the mental health piece? And come back to you, Tim, as you're already sort of in the flow.
We start with exercise. It has positive connotations. It has the most immediate outcome and benefit from the session. Half an hour run and half an hour walk, guys start to talk, but they also feel better immediately. From the activity comes conversation, sometimes immediately, sometimes over time, but they do build that social connection and network. So that's probably the prioritization of things in terms of how we've seen them work in the majority of cases: exercise, connection, and then social.
Great. And to you also, Billy.
Ditto, exactly. Look, we started off as a mental health group, I suppose, to support the guy who lost his son, and develop then right through then to that social, as well as the importance of the exercise as well. So all 3 are connected in every shape and form. And I can't add to what Tim just said. That was excellent.
Yeah, good work. I suppose for us, mate, is that the exercise is critical, but for us, it's really about the connection. because you know, a lot of guys exercise by themselves and don't spend the time with mates that they should, and that physical connection, and not Facebook online connection, but the physical connection allows blokes to eyeball each other. And Tim quite rightly said earlier about that side-by-side piece. You know, the activity while the connection is awesome, but if you're only going to do one thing, it's to spend time with other men, because, you know, there is so much value in that, which I won't get into, but most of it is around that support mechanism. And if you're with people, you're probably more inclined, to talk about what's going on, but then secondly, from the other person to be able to see, you know, if it's a good mate and they see that they're not right, it'll prompt conversations. So all three are critical. So it's hard to pick the favourite child, as they say.
Yeah, and
Can I just add something there too? A lot of our guys are probably over 35. They were involved in mainly, you know, footy, sports and that there. Come to the end of that time and they find themselves at, you know, a loose end, doing nothing. They sit on the couch. So this is, I suppose, as a way for them to reconnect with the community, get some exercise again, and get some focus back into their life. Yeah,
that's great, Billy. I was just reflecting on this. It seems, and I don't know if this is accurate, but that the fact that you're using a sort of physical activity as the entry point seems to really drop the barriers and take away any of the stigma for men, which makes it easier for them to access. And then the mental health and social connection becomes a sort of secondary benefit. Whereas if you called it kind of like, you know, the men's mental health meetup or the men's social connection meetup, you probably wouldn't get so many blokes turning up. I don't know if that's sort of true or not. Yeah, great. Well, I'm sure you'll all agree that those are three fantastic projects and three awesome men whose passion and commitment shines through in each of those talks. I don't know how we can pick between three of those and have one be a winner of sorts. They're all fantastic projects, but we'll pick one and let you know sort of after the break who we've chosen to go through the shortlist. But you're all super inspiring, and if I had the money in my back pocket, I'd give it to all of you. But I don't. So, so don't be phoning me up begging, right? No. Okay, good. So thanks very much. That's the end of the first session. Thank you.